The model of the Dream Center is really find a need and fill it, find a hurt and heal it.
Hey guys, welcome to this event. We're so excited that you've joined us, and we have an amazing and very special announcement we're gonna make in a couple of minutes. But before that, I wanna reflect back on last year, July 30th, 2020, the very first year that we did this Rise Up campaign. We don't really know what happened, but we made an invitation for this special day, and people around the world just responded. They wanted to get loud for children. They were recognizing for the first time, in many cases, what is going on in this world with human trafficking and child exploitation, how it's a growing crime, and it's international, it's everywhere. And so we were so pleased to see people from Europe all the way to Australia and everywhere in the United States rise up and get loud. Tomorrow is our second time doing this, and we're noticing that it's gonna get even bigger. We have other countries from Europe joining, more states in the United States, even in Latin America. And it's not too late for you to sign up and join us, join one of these demonstrations in a city near you. Just go to O.U.R rescue/rise up. Because you all got so loud last year, you were able to then contribute to so many anti-trafficking organizations who saw the fruits of all this. We too saw that fruit. And with the added resources, we've been able to grow in ways that I never thought we could. We've added dozens of new specialists in the operations side, people from Homeland Security, from the Department of Justice, who were the top in their game fighting these crimes. Also, our Aftercare has grown exponentially. And we've been able to open new countries. We already were working in about 25 different countries last year. Well, that number is growing quite a bit. I personally been involved in expanding into 2 or 3 brand new countries where we've just launched operations and aftercare, and all this thanks to you. And we're excited to be giving you updates and reports, especially in these new countries we're in, which we'll be doing over the next months and years. But all of it is thanks to you for your participation and your passion for ending human trafficking. From the beginning of our existence, we've always recognized the importance of partnering and collaborating with other organizations and entities. This is why we work so closely with government officials, with other NGOs, and other players in the space who are doing good. It really takes an entire team because there are different specialties that each organization has. Some focus on prevention, some focus on education, others on aftercare. There's so many pieces and so many components that for us to really do right by these children who are in need, we need to come together. And so I just want to honor all of the many organizations, government and non-government, that work so diligently to come together to fight this fight. Some of the most inspiring stories I've ever heard are those from survivors, those who were put into situations that are incomprehensible, darkness that is really unfathomable to most of us. And yet they broke through it, and they became survivors, and then they became thrivers, and took their newfound healing and light and shined it back into the darkness to help others. Tomorrow, as we all commemorate July 30th together, please consider some of these stories. You're going to hear some of them tonight about these true heroes in the cause of fighting human trafficking. Now we're going to get to hear some messages from some of our friends who are also fighting this fight. And after that, you're going to hear from Jessica Mass, our VP of Aftercare, who has a very exciting announcement.
The majority of children here in the United States who are trafficked by someone they know. They were lured into a relationship by a supposed boyfriend who they trusted, and then they were forced to do unimaginable things. So today, I rise for children because every child deserves a childhood. Every child deserves to be loved, every child deserves to be safe, and every child deserves to live free.
I rise up for children because each and every one of them have an immense worth. It is unacceptable that any child should have to endure the pain and suffering of being trafficked for sex or any other reason. And our organization is joining O.U.R in the fight for their freedom and for the hope of a better tomorrow.
Holding Out Hope supports O.U.R and the Rise Up for Children campaign because every child deserves safety, security, and a childhood.
I rise up in support of O.U.R and children everywhere because no child in this day and age should be enslaved.
I am rising up because all children matter and the fight to end human trafficking is not yet done.
We rise up against human trafficking because we believe every person deserves to have a hope and a beautiful future. We believe survivors deserve a safe place and the support and the resources they need as they journey forward.
En Justicia Unida estamos trabajando con niños y niñas inmigrantes en toda Latinoamérica en contra de la trata de personas. Nosotros creemos que ellos merecen una vida digna en donde tengan acceso a educación, alimentación y sobre todo una vida llena de amor y de felicidad.
At Child Help, we rise up with art and animal therapy and traditional talk counseling. Your journey is a tough one, and if you survive trafficking, your rescue is the first step. We've got the rest covered. There is a better tomorrow. Trust us.
I rise up on World Day Against Trafficking because every child needs an advocate. No child should be groomed to keep secrets of sexual abuse that lead to exploitation and ultimately sex trafficking. No child should be sold for sex.
We rise up because survivors are warriors and we want them to be the change they wish to see in the world.
I rise up against child trafficking so that all children can grow up in a world that is safe.
The National Alliance for Drug Endangered Children is rising up to give children and families the lives they deserve.
We need to rise up for all children who are in a situation of sexual exploitation. We need to free them, heal them, love them, and empower them, and make sure as a society that this will never ever happen again. Starting by breaking the silence and make sure that every perpetrator is put behind bars.
Thank you so much, Tim. And thank you to all of our friends that have participated in the Rise Up campaign. If you were a part of it last year or this year, thank you. Thank you for standing with us as we fight against human trafficking and exploitation. I have an exciting announcement, and I feel so honored and humbled to get to share this with you. We have gathered a survivor advisory board from all over the world. There are 7 survivors on this board that are going to help us with our curriculum and with our publications, but also with their insight and their knowledge. They're going to help us with new initiatives and things that they're passionate about. They bring their knowledge, their insight, their wisdom, and they bring their heart. So, June, KB, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us. We're really, really excited. Just in the short amount of time we've been able to kind of get to know the board and talk and work a little bit together. I'm really excited about what we can do together, and I'm grateful that O.U.R. has valued the perspective of survivors. So I think it's going to be a really good partnership. I think it's going to be great.
I'm KB. I am a survivor of sex trafficking, and I am definitely a fierce force in the anti-trafficking movement. I feel honored to be a part of this world organization of O.U.R., and I am inspired to rise up in this sacred duty, and it is an honor to be a part of this board and to hear my voice be heard. So thank you for letting us be here, and thank you for accepting us on this board.
It's such an honor. Thank you, KB. Thank you, June. We also have one of our international survivors here with us tonight via video. She's not able to travel, but she shared this incredible video with us, and so we're going to watch this now as she shares her words of wisdom.
नमस्कार, म चरिमाया तामाङ शक्ति समूहको संस्थापक सदस्य, हाल म अध्यक्षको रूपमा छु संस्थामा। शक्ति समूह मानव बेचबिखनबाट प्रभावित नेपाली दिदीबहिनीको संस्था हो, जुन चाहिँ विश्वको पहिलो संस्थाको रूपमा परिचित छ सर्भाइभरले स्वयं बेचबिखन विरुद्ध काम गर्ने सिलसिलामा। र बेचबिखनबाट प्रभावित व्यक्तिको बारेमा र सहयोगको बारेमा कुरा गर्नु पर्दाखेरि आज जोड्न चाहन्छु, कुनै पनि व्यक्ति समस्यामा पर्नु व्यक्तिको दोष होइन र समस्यामा पर्नु नै अब जीवनको अन्तिम पनि होइन। भोगाईबाट सिकेर अगाडि बढ्नुपर्छ भन्ने मान्यतालाई साबित गर्न शक्ति समूहले मानव बेचबिखन पीडित प्रभावितहरूको साथमा रेड, रेस्क्यू, रिपार्टेसन, रिहेबिलिटेसन, रिइन्डिकेसन र अन्तिममा यदि आवश्यकता पर्यो भने रिफरको समेत काम गरिरहेको छ र यसरी काम गर्ने दौरानमा प्रभावित केन्द्रित र प्रभावित मैत्री कार्यशैलीमा काम गर्न जरुरत छ। हामीले यी कुरालाई मनन गर्दै अनुसरण गरिरहेका छ र आम व्यक्तिसँग बाँच्न पाउने वातावरणमा बाँच्न त अवश्य बाँच्ला, तर आत्मसम्मानको साथमा बाँच्नको लागि त्यो वातावरण निर्माण गर्न हामी नागरिक समाज सरकार समेत लाग्नुपर्छ भन्ने मेरो र संस्थाको आह्वान छ। यति भन्दै आजलाई यहाँहरूबाट बिदा चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
It's amazing.
It's incredible.
She is amazing. Her spirit, I've been able to talk to her just a bit online, and she always has a smile on her face. And when we talk about surviving, you just don't want to survive, you want to thrive. And she, just from being able to have a little bit of contact and interact with her, she's an example of someone who's thriving, and she is happy and positive, and you can see it in the way she speaks and carries herself, that she's not allowed anything to, drag her down from it. She's taking what she was given, and she's just thriving and shining. And I'm inspired and impressed every time we get to talk to her. So I'm already excited about the board, and I've just started. So it's been great.
Thank you, June. Yes, she is incredible. All of the board is incredible. So we do have some questions. They are from our audience. And so we have people write into us all the time wondering different things, and they have questions and they don't always know who to ask or how to ask. And so we are so grateful that you are going to help answer some of these questions tonight and really help educate and inform more of our audience on some of these questions and answers.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, ladies. What helped you keep going despite the horror you were experiencing?
So there's many things, and we kind of compiled that into one question because we received many questions from viewers regarding spirituality and God and what gave us strength. How did we get through? Do you have nightmares? Different things like that. And really what it's come down to for me is that in the depths of being trafficked, the strength that was given to me was that I needed to survive for my children. That was the number one thing. The second thing was that I felt a divine guidance that was telling me that the things I was experiencing would later be for a greater good. And so it was almost like I had a calmness and a peace to myself that I needed to just get through the hell that I was experiencing day in and day out, night in and night out, so that I could be in this moment right now and part of this advisory board. So things have come full circle, and the things that gave me strength were sometimes even the smallest thing, like a bellman helping me load my luggage into a car, or someone giving me a ride, or someone smiling at me, or just the little things in life that help me to keep getting me through. But ultimately it was a divine guidance that helped to give me strength, because I knew inside of my soul that one day I would make it out and I would be able to help others make it out as well.
I can agree. Like, it's a lot of inner recognizing a higher power, but it's also, for me, it was, sometimes it's hard. You don't know that you're going to survive mentally, physically, emotionally. You just don't know that you're going to survive, and you're kind of in just get through it mode. But the things that make a difference for myself, it was the things that happen outside of those moments. So when someone showed you compassion or didn't judge you, or when someone was willing to accept you with all your flaws, when you felt valued. So all those positive moments that happened throughout the week or the month or the year, those are the things that got me through in the really bad moments. When you were like, I don't know if I can do this, you kind of go back on, there are good people, and you have to remember, and I think that's what helped me get through. I mean, we still struggle. There's still nights you have nightmares, or something happens and sometimes it's like just a shock to your system and you think, oh, we're going back there. I told my daughter, sometimes it's like those fainting goats where all of a sudden you're hit by something, you're like, oh my gosh, yep. And you're just done. You're done. You're out for the count because it takes you back to that moment. But those moments become a little more rare and fewer in between because people are starting to accept and understand what it's like. So for me, getting through all those horrible moments where you thought, I don't know how much more of this I can take, it was the people and the kindness and the acceptance that happened all those other days that pushed me through.
Thank you. Yes. And I think you both hit on a really important point, is that a healing journey is a journey. It's not just, we're done, everything's over, I'm now safe. It's ongoing, and you have to fight, sometimes daily, sometimes not as often, but it's an ongoing fight for healing and to get to the point of thriving. And that looks different every day sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
The second question that people are really curious about is, what are some of the things that you should not ask or say to survivors?
It was so long ago. You should be over it by now, but it's in your past. You know, that happened so long ago. Well, maybe you should be over it by now. It seems like you're doing fine now. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. There's so many different things. What was it like? Like, I mean, there's just almost people inserting themselves and wanting to know, almost like they're watching a movie, like popping a movie in and they want to watch the movie and see what it's like just for their own curiosity, but they don't realize that it's actually a soul and a human being that experienced that. So it's these little questions of, well, how many people did you have to see? Or how much money? Did he take all the money? I mean, just all of these different questions. And they might seem harmless to other people, but truly and deeply, they hurt inside of our souls. And they make me sad for the person that's asking them, because there is such an education, and I don't think that people are meaning to harm us by asking those questions, but there are so many questions that are asked that, you know, you seem healed now, you look fine now, you know, when the reality is that we're internally damaged, we're mentally damaged, we're psychologically damaged, we're emotionally damaged, and even though we might look okay and we appear okay, we still have severe things that we are dealing with. So I would, as an offer of a suggestion and not advice, just try to think about what you're saying and try to think about us as being people that are still healing.
Thank you so much, KB. I appreciate you sharing that. I think people do ask questions, and even if they do have good intentions, it's so important for them to think about what they're actually asking another person, and it
happens all the time.
All the time.
They mean what. I was talking to someone the other day, and I've known her for years, and she knows my story, and she said, you know, she knew I was going to come and talk to you guys, and she said, so this thing that happened, was it every single night? And I said, no, it wasn't every single night. And she's like, oh, I thought it was something traumatic. And I know she cares, and I know her intent is good. So I think people, they don't realize, you know, we say things all the time that maybe offend people, and we don't mean to, but keep in mind, it comes off, or you can sound offensive. And unfortunately, survivors, we're very guarded anyway. And so it's really easy to be offended or think, oh my gosh. So we have to say, okay, what's the intent behind that? But a lot of the times they don't realize that it's hurtful. Or, you know, we've had people say, I've had say, you come from your family, oh my gosh, they're damaged or broken or whatever. And without realizing it, that means, you know, my mind says, well, that means I must be bad or damaged, or because, you know, how could a bad tree produce good fruit? So I think whether it's fair or not, what happens is we take that in and we internalize it. So maybe just keep in mind when you're asking something, it's like when we teach our kids, don't give them more information than they feel comfortable to take. So I wouldn't go straight to, what was it like? You know, how much did they pay? Or I would start with, that's so brave. How did you get through that? Or how can I help? Or ask things that ask about the person, not the event. Because once you learn who the person is, I think you'll feel inspired when it's the right time to ask a question. But inquire about the person, not the damage that person has sustained.
And I also think thinking about the intent of why are you asking that question? Are you answering it as an intent for your own curiosity? Just try to keep in mind the intent behind the questions that you're asking, is what I would say.
Thank you so much. And so many things stand out from what you said. Once, if somebody's trafficked one time, that for someone to say that's not enough for it to be traumatizing. I think that's one of the things that I've heard people say, that it's so shocking, because that it doesn't, if it's once, if it's 100 times, if it's 1,000 times, trafficking is trafficking, and the damage that it does is real, and it takes such a journey to go through the healing process.
Yeah, which is why it's so important. And I love that O.U.R. has been able to get so much information out there, because, you know, the greatest thing that people can do if they're interested is become educated. So they know what they're asking and they understand what the situation is. I tell people, it's like, imagine someone you trust and you care about, and we all have vulnerabilities. You know, maybe it's, I don't like where I come from, or my family doesn't have enough money, or I don't sit with the cool kids at school, whatever it is, or I think this dress makes me look big, or pants or jacket with the big shoulders. It's whatever it is, but we all have vulnerabilities and things that make us feel uncomfortable or weak. Now imagine that you have those and someone comes along and exploits those. And so they take advantage of the fact that you don't feel like the cool girl, but he's going to come along and make you feel you are the cool girl. You're beautiful. You're important. Someone comes along and they exploit that and they take advantage of that, whether that's through abuse or long-term grooming that ends up in abuse. Now take all that alone, that's a bad situation and that's not good. Now take that and add to that the fact that not only did they do that to you, they got paid for it. They profited from that. So keep that in mind, because that's a whole different level. There are so many women and boys and men that have that situation, but it's a different kind of pain when the person that you trusted did that to you and they profited from it multiple times. So just keep that in mind, because you're not dealing with something that, it doesn't matter if that happens. Can you imagine if someone said, that's too bad, but it was only once? So just keep in mind that it's a tough situation. So it doesn't matter how many times. One time is more than enough. That's enough to deal with if it's just once.
Thank you for being willing to share those experiences and that insight, because I think that really will help our audience and other people know how to more appropriately see the person first as a person. And if the survivor chooses to share, that is their choice. So thank you both. Question number 3. Is human trafficking what it's portrayed like in some movies? Is there always a lack of freedom of movement?
I think that's the perception, that someone's going to grab you out of, a car, and they're going to shove you in a van, and you're going to be and that happens. But more often than not, I believe the statistics are that it's family, and it's most of the time it's definitely someone that you trust and have faith in, because you let your guard down and you allow that to happen because they're in that circle. They're in a position of power and trust.
Yeah, and I feel like June and I we both feel the same pain, and we've had completely different stories of being trafficked. I was trafficked specifically by someone who profited, by many people who profited. And as far as the movement part of it, I was constantly moving from hotel to apartment to different things like that. There were instances where I was being sold or traded. There was instances where people attempted to kidnap me. So that is a very real part of it. There were setups of taking me to other countries. I was removed from multiple hotels due to my safety. So there's some specifics I can't answer due to legality reasons. But I would like to say there are both sides to it. There is nonstop movement in trafficking in itself in the U.S. Domestically, but also that there is similarities in movies. There are people who are kidnapped and taken against their will and are chained to beds and everything like that. But there's also another side to it where we're psychologically chained to a bed. So I think that in that answer, there's a ton of movement. The movement is different in every situation. And both for June and I, we've had completely different situations of being trafficked and who our traffickers were. But definitely a lot of people took part in the movement of what was happening to us.
And that's what I love about having a survivor advisory board is that everybody has such different experiences, and the insight that you bring from both of those perspectives is so powerful. Our operations team has asked that they get to have feedback from our advisory board, and that is something that just that in itself, the perspective that you guys both bring is going to be so impactful in how we do operations in different situations, and most importantly, how do we have best practices and survivor-informed care on all operations. So thank you for sharing both of those insights to that question. Question number 4. We had so many questions about healing and what it looks like to heal. So in your guys' opinions, what does healing and aftercare look like?
I can head off this question. Healing and aftercare is going to look different for every survivor. What is comfortable to me may not be specifically comfortable to another survivor. Something could be triggering to another survivor that feels healing to me. I can speak about my own healing. For myself, I found a lot of healing in one-on-one therapy. I've used different modalities such as EMDR. I've gone to 9 different treatment centers, some of which were trauma treatment centers. I've worked with CBT, DBT, which if people of the audience don't know is cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy. It is a challenge to eat, to sleep, to function as a normal human being in society. So my main points of healing for myself is taking care of my physical body and making sure that myself and my children are taken care of first. And I sing, I rap, I get it out. I also do mixed media art. And as I'm doing the art, I'm able to process through the things that have happened to me. And I'm able to really think about what happened to me. And I'm able to put it onto a beautiful piece of artwork that I surround my apartment with. And part of my healing is that I've created my apartment to be my safe place because I was in so many different hotel rooms that I didn't feel safe in. I felt afraid to open the door. I felt afraid of who was outside. And so I've created this place with candles and plants and my art on the walls. And it's not one thing that will help me. It's literally like 100 things that'll get me to calm down. But like I said, some days I claw my way into my bed and, have to meditate myself to sleep. And that's just part of my healing. And I'm okay with that because I know eventually one day it will be okay. And I am okay compared to the hell I was in. I am okay. I'm safe here. And it's a lot of self-talk and a lot of talking and figuring out new ways. You know, we're still figuring out this journey. You know, it's going to be a lifelong process of healing. It was a lifelong sentence of what we are having to serve. It's going to be a lifelong search for healing. So that's kind of what I go through as healing.
Thank you, KB. And you are an amazing artist. You're absolutely incredible. And within everything that you said, I think you give a lot of hope to other survivors that are being told maybe that there's only one way and this is the only way. And what you're saying is there's so many different ways, and to survivors continue to explore all those, continue to lean into the different ones. If that's sparkly pillows, or if that is going to therapy, talking to friends, all these different things that I think are really beneficial for both the audience to know, because sometimes they bring those specific talents and they are experts in helping in that specific area. And for survivors to know there's so many different options.
Never give up on your healing. Never give up on your healing, because you will find something that will stick and will feel good to you, and you will be able to heal through that.
Absolutely.
Never give up.
I think that's one of the questions I get asked the most often is there hope in healing after someone has gone through human trafficking? So if somebody said to you, is there hope? Is there healing? What would you say to them?
This is, you know how we said everybody's different? This is a big example of how we're different. I didn't have any resources. In fact, I mean, I'm so impressed just listening to all the resources. I had nothing. In fact, when I read this question, I thought, okay, this is one we're going to get asked. Honestly, I read the question and I thought, oh, lizards. That doesn't make sense. So I thought of lizards. So I used to live in Australia, and there was this lizard. I came in the kitchen one day and there was this cat, and it was eating part of this lizard. Well, it was attacking this lizard. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to witness a lizard murder. And I was like, shoo, stop. And the cat just kept messing with this lizard. And then all of a sudden, right when you thought, this is it, he's going to eat the lizard like split in half, and his front part of his body took off that way, and the bottom half of his body is still sitting there, and the cat starts eating it. And I was like, what just happened? What's wrong? And my husband said, oh, this is the husband voice. That's a defense mechanism. It's not his half of his body. That's his tail. And they just run off and, they'll just have to grow another one. And I remember honestly thinking, what's going to happen? Does he go back to the other lizards? Are they going to make fun of him? Does he not have anyone to sit with at the lunch table now? Do they say, oh, you can't sit with the people with good tails? Does he have to get an artificial tail? Like, what happens? He just left half of his body. So, and I know that sounds silly. So when I was reading that question though, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a lizard, because there comes a point when you realize like, this is serious. I'm either going to lose my life, I can get away, but you literally have to sacrifice part of yourself, and you just leave it behind. And I'm like that lizard. And I think you sacrifice a part of yourself. And sometimes that's the ability to trust others. You sacrifice that softness, because now there's a wall there. And not just because you're afraid of cats now, but because you're like, no, I know what it's like to be hurt. And you literally lose this part of yourself. So healing for me is trying to figure out, how do you go back into this community? And you're obviously different. You're different. And you have to figure out, how am I going to regrow this part of me? And it's possible, but it is so hard. Do you go sit with the other people? Do you sit at the table where like that guy cut off on his own tail? She has an artificial tail. Like, what is it? But you go to the people that you feel comfortable with, because they're missing a part of themselves too. And maybe it's because of drugs or abuse or whatever it is. Somehow you lose a part of yourself and you have to grow it back. And healing is trying to find the best place for that to happen. So for example, you go out and help people. You would be the lizard that says, listen, there's a cat over there. I'm going to take these guys over there and I'm going to help them escape that. And not that we're all lizard people, but is the only way I could figure out to wrap my mind around what it is like to feel less of yourself. And you're literally missing something that's a big part of who you are. And you've got to find a community that will accept you. And that's why I hope that through getting the perspective of survivors, through, people who are supporting, whether it's through a donation or I'm going to go take the pamphlet from the drive, whatever it is, whether you're making a phone call and saying, listen, I just found out this is what trafficking is. It's not always this and this. There's also this. And hey, I just saw these girls and this guy talk about it, and informing other people, whatever that is, even if you're in another country or you're across town or you're just the lady that I see every day at the grocery store, every time you are willing to learn and support, you're helping me grow back my tail.
Thank you, June. Thank you. Honestly, everything that you're sharing is so powerful and so authentic and so real that's when it actually helps educate our community, our audience, helping inspire survivors. And so thank you. And question number 5.
Ready.
What are red flags to spot for a person being trafficked, and how can we see them? And the root of the question is, how can we help protect our children and loved ones?
It's a big one.
So at least for myself, the red flags that I know people were seeing was that I was highly malnutritioned. I was alone all the time. I was showing up to hotels by myself with bags and bags and bags. Obviously, something was wrong. I would say disappearing from your family and your friends, not answering the phone, being distant. Those are all like the biggest red flags that I would say. Like if your family member goes missing, probably something's wrong. And then as far as protecting our children, I think monitoring them and being aware of what the signs are of being withdrawn. And you can kind of tell by the way that maybe your teenager or your young adult is dressing, who they're going out with, who they're hanging out with. Are they staying out all night? Are they coming up with all this money that you have no idea where it's coming from? I mean, there's obvious signs. And in all honesty, we can't protect our children from everything. But what we can do is interject. And what we can do is find the resources to the people who can help. Call the right resources that know what they're doing, because you personally cannot save someone from a trafficker, and you may put them in more danger by approaching them or approaching a trafficker. So please do your research and reach out to the correct organizations that can help you. And if you have any inclination in your gut that maybe my child shouldn't be hanging out at the park after dark or something like that, just as an example, you probably should listen to that intuition and let your teenager be mad at you and let them stay in their room. Because it's those times when your children are left vulnerable and they're in stages where they don't know who they are. They're looking for validation. They're seeking for something that maybe they haven't received yet. And it is no indication of something that a parent is lacking. It's just the human condition. We're searching. We're ever searching as human beings on this earth. And never give up hope. If they do get into it, never give up on them, because at one point they will come home.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's a lot of red flags. I think we could probably sit here for hours just talking about signs or things that we've
red flags, yeah,
for
5
sure.
different IDs.
There's a lot of things. But for me, it's simple. Make sure you have an open line of communication. If your kids can come and talk to you, then that's half the battle. Like, have an honest, because I'm a grandma, so I've had the teenagers, and Teenagers are tough in general anyway. So if they know that they can come to you and tell you something tough, like, listen, you can tell me you did something wrong. I may not like it, but I still love you. If you have an open line of communication and to know, listen, it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel jealous. It's okay to think that girl is mean. What's not okay is when you act a certain way that is going to affect you and other people negatively. So if you feel comfortable going to your parent, that's half the battle right there. And make sure they know, I don't care what time it is. It's okay to be rude. If someone's asked you to go do something and you don't feel comfortable, it's okay to say no. It's okay to be the rude person that says, you know what? No, thank you. I don't feel comfortable going with you there. Because guess what? We've all been given this instinct. I really feel like half the time we get these little messages like, hey, that may not be a good idea, or maybe I should say something. I really believe a lot of the times we have those little promptings. It's just a matter of, do we have the courage to act on it? Mm-hmm. If you see that girl at the grocery store that's standing aside and she looks like she's 12, but she's all decked out and she's alone, and when maybe you ask her, hey, you doing okay? And she looks to a car or someone else before she speaks to you, maybe that's something that, guess what? You have that prompting, like something's off here. Don't be afraid to act on it. Maybe it's something little. Maybe there's a perfectly good reason for that. But wouldn't you rather be the one that called and it was nothing than the one who it was absolutely something and you did nothing? So don't be afraid to act on those little promptings we get saying, you know what, maybe I should go sit by that girl. Maybe all she needs is a friend. Maybe she needs to feel appreciated. So don't be afraid to act on those. Be full of courage and act on those little messages that we get, that something might be wrong.
Yeah. And be educated on what these signs are. I think what both of you said is there are red flags. There are signs. There are things that people, the general public, can know what to look for and to respond.
Yeah.
Yep. Question number 6. What gave you hope and led to your freedom?
What ultimately led to my freedom was that I stopped listening to the muffled voices of the world. I stopped listening to the people who were deceiving me. I stopped listening to people who wanted things from me. I stopped listening to my trafficker, and I knew my life was in danger. And so I heard an inspired voice that directed me on what I should do. And I was able to escape the hotel that I was in. And I ran to the nearest hospital on foot and was blessed enough to have a church family and friends take me home. And it was expected that I wouldn't survive through the night, but I made it. And that's why I'm a survivor, because you can't put me down. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't work. And what really gave me the strength, when I was running with no food, no water in my body, no sleep for months on end, the only thing in my system was substances. I don't even know how I ran on foot, but the only thing in my mind was that I was not going to leave my children alone on this earth by themselves. And that is what gave me the strength to run away, was that, and I realized, and it was inspired to me, that my body is sacred and that I literally can bring children to this earth to experience this earthly existence. And that my body was more than just what it was being abused and used for, and that my soul was worth more. So what gave me strength was the power that I have that I call God, and still to this day is my biggest strength, and my 3 beautiful little girls.
Thank you, KB. Thank you.
I was trying to think of just one, like a moment, but it's lots of little things. It's because for me, it's a constant struggle, especially back when things were a little more raw. It was a constant struggle of, you have this fight within yourself. You want people to know what happened to you so they understand why you're the way you are. And then you have this other part that is, I need to hide this and not say anything because I don't even know what to call this. I don't know if they'll accept me. And this battle, and you almost don't know what to hope for. Especially like in my situation, it was just the way things were. There wasn't the hope of something better because I thought this is just the way it is. So, but what led to me having faith in something better was honestly people putting their faith in me and giving me the opportunity to grow or to share little bits. And the first few times that I actually vocalized, this is what happened, I received back people saying, you know what, I've never told anyone this, but that happened to me too. Every single time I've gone out and I've spoken, whether it's in a big group or a small or an auditorium, whatever it's been, there's always been someone who came up and said, the first one who did it was this little lady, and she was 80-something years old, and she said, this happened to me all the time when I was younger. And I never told anyone. I didn't even know it was wrong. Thank you. And something happens when someone shares with you, whether they say, this happened to me as well, or they say, thank you for sharing that. And you know they mean that. It gives you hope, like, you know what? It's going to be okay because it's not just me. I'm not alone. Because remember, we don't heal in isolation. It's not just me. And look, she's great and she's fine and she's thriving and we're working towards it together. But just knowing that you're not alone, that gives you hope. I mean, that's what you guys do. O.U.R. has been great at that. They donate and they give their time and their fundraisers. And, you know, there's people sitting at home thinking, maybe we can make a difference. Maybe that gives someone at home who goes, hey, that happened to me as well. Hope that, guess what, it can be better. So it wasn't one thing that was life-changing. It was a lot of little moments, which is why it's important that people don't be afraid to say, I appreciate that. Thank you. That must be tough. You're strong to have gone through it. Thank you for sharing that with me. That makes me want to try it, whatever it is. It's lots of little things that gave me hope and still give me hope all the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, June.
That's what both of you said was there are different types of ways to freedom. There's different things that specifically hit on hope to help you keep going. And I like that you guys both shared what you did because sometimes people think it's just this one-time operation and it's the day of, there's a rescue and there's a sting operation. And obviously that does happen. That's a big part of what O.U.R. does and what we do. But there's also these other things where there's these small interventions where somebody has these different interventions that happen 5, 6, 7 times before their freedom from their trafficker actually happens and that intervention happens. So thank you. And I do love what you guys both said about when you're sharing your story and you're either giving somebody else hope or you're inviting somebody else because you're creating a safe space for them to say, me too. That happened to me too. And I've never shared it before or something like that. So thank you both. What are some of the challenges you face today and what empowers you to continue your healing journey? So what are some of the challenges that you feel comfortable with sharing that you still face today?
I'll probably get emotional with this one. Just to keep it real with the audience, I might appear okay, but it is literally a battle every day, physically, mentally, psychologically, to move past what has happened to me. And my brain can't fully comprehend what has been done to me. And what keeps me going is the relationship that I have with God and the mercies that he was offered to me to help me leave. I feel a duty a sacred duty to honor the promises I made back to him, which was that I was never going to give up fighting for survivors, and to my 3 children, because they chose the perfect mom. I don't know any other mom that is a bigger fighter than I am. And I know that it's a long road ahead of me. But I want people to know that even though some of us look okay, we still fight every day for our lives. And not only do we have to escape what is happening to us, but we now have this lifelong journey of healing. And sometimes it is a lot. It becomes too much. It becomes to the point where you don't want to do it anymore. It's sometimes I'm screaming to God, like, why would you let me choose this? Why would you send me down here? Why would you let me live this life? Why? Like, can I just get a breath, you know? And there's small mercies that happen, you know, when I'm laying in bed and I'm able to look at my baby and see how perfect she is. And when I know that this is going to help so many more survivors, that's what gives me strength to keep going. And I am vulnerable enough and honest enough to say that, like, some days I am not okay. But I have the most amazing friends and family, including Jessica. I text Jessica all the time and I'm like, I'm not okay. I need to get a PTSD shot in my neck. Like, help me. You know, there's like so many angels. I call them earth angels. There's, you know, my detective. There's so many people that have surrounded me, and I know that God is always with me. And I want people to know that once we're rescued, once we escape, we still need you. We still need people. We still need you to come together. O.U.R. still needs you. So just keep helping survivors, because it's still hard every day.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes. That hits on so many things. You know, the question being, what are the challenges that you still face today that you feel comfortable with sharing? And you hit on the factor that it's not a one and done healing process. It is an ongoing daily fight. And that the challenges, I don't think anyone that hasn't been through it could even come close to comprehending. So thank you for sharing that specifically. I think that's so informative and so helpful.
Thank you.
You got me.
You were both so beautiful and so incredible.
She made me tear up because at the core of who we are, we are, you know, we're mothers and grandmothers and daughters, and we're friends and we're sisters. But deep down inside of us, we are still girls that just want to be loved and accepted. And we don't want to just feel that. We want to actually believe that the people who tell us they care really do. And it's a battle because it's hard to overcome the trust that you feel betrayed by. And, you know, look at KB and I. If you put us next to each other, we don't look like we would be. She's this young, cute girl, and I'm a grandma. But we have this instant connection because we know what it feels like to be almost destroyed. Our spirits, our bodies, our who we are to the core of us by the same weapon. And I think because there's this bond, broken people recognize other broken. So there's something about hearing someone share who they are, because we might sound different. I mean, Jeremiah spoke in a different language, but everything I need to know about her, I feel from her. And she's not a grandma, but I know that what she does and why she works so hard is the same as I do, because we have kids and we try really hard not to pass on that pain and that hurt. And it's hard to get past that, especially in a world that says you need to be this and look like this, and this is what a good mom looks like, and this is what a good, you have to drive this car, and you have to live in this neighborhood, and you need to have these friends. And it's hard enough just to be us. So I appreciate every time someone's brave enough to share, because it is this pain that it is hard to go through and hard to experience and relive. But believe it or not, every time we do, and we get the support and someone else saying, thank you for sharing that, it gets a little bit better, and a little bit easier to do the ugly cry, and worth it, because although it's hard to believe people a lot of the time, I believe it. I believe that it'll make a difference. And that's why we're both sitting here. It's not easy, but I think we both believe it's absolutely worth it. Yeah?
Faith over fear.
Thank you both so much. Thank you for showing up in such an authentic way. And thank you for being a part of our Worldwide Survivor Advisory Board. The things that you have to give as far as insight and wisdom, and the things that you're going to come up with as a group, as new initiatives. I am so grateful. I know O.U.R. is so grateful as a whole. And so we are humbled, and I am honored to get to call you guys both friends. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jess.
To our audience, we hope that you had a time of insight and gaining knowledge as you are learning about what it's like for survivors as they are going through their healing journey, and some of the questions that you had. We hope that you found insight and wisdom, and we'll share that with other people. So thank you. Thank you both for being here. And I am just so grateful for this time that we've had together. I'm just going to give you guys both a group hug. I love you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you.